We're live again. Sorry for that little hiccup. I don't know what happened with my previous camera. I'm constantly trying new things. This technology doesn't always love me. So I'm back and I'm going to start over because I didn't want it to get cut in half. So thank you for joining me today. And we are going to talk about all things stress related. So I have a little song for you. If you caught it already, you're going to get it again. So let's talk about stress, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about stress. Let's talk about stress. Let's talk about stress. Let's talk about stress. So, hello, happy Friday, and welcome to this stress talk. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Michi Bibi Kelly, Mind and Body Wellness Coach, and I created Move to Love You and Move to Love You Circle. So you might remember that I had created a poll a couple weeks ago about all of the branches of self-love, and the one that you all seem to have the same theme, common struggle with, is self-regulation and relaxation, i.e. countering stress. So say hi if you're joining me today. Thank you so much for being here, or if you're catching the replay, let me know. Thanks so much for tuning in. And so we're going to get down to talking about stress. I think we tend to think of stress as a bad thing, most of us, right? Because we're kind of stuck there. But the reality is that stress does serve its own purpose. So we have two different types of nervous systems. So one of them is our fight or flight mode, also known as stress. We've also got our rest and restore nervous system, which is our relaxed state. And the truth is that stress that fight or flight mode was made for a reason. Like we were made up that way to have that for a reason, basically to protect ourselves from being attacked. So if you ever feel like you're in danger and you start feeling those panics, that surge of anxiety or that fight or flight, that response comes up specifically to help us either fight or to flee, right? So if we're being attacked by a bear, or perhaps a deer, a lion, I don't know, that nervous response serves its own purpose to allow us to protect ourselves, right? But the issue here is, and why we see stress as bad, is because in our society, we are constantly seeing different stressors as being in danger and constantly being in danger. And we're constantly kind of fearing and worrying about what might happen next, whether that may be stressors with our jobs, whether that may be stressors with money, with, our relationships, with so many different aspects of our lives can start to create these stresses. And so what I want you to know is that you're not alone, and that many of us feel this way. And what I thought was really interesting is that when everybody checked off what they struggled with when it came to self-love, not a single person said that they lacked self-awareness, which to me was really interesting, because if we are not aware of what's going on in our body, then we cannot combat that stress, right? So that's the biggest thing, is to start to become more aware. But so let me backtrack for a second. So we've got the stress response, that fight or flight mode, but then we've also got our relaxed and restore mode, which is technically our normal state of being, right? It's our how we're inherently born. And let me know if you're watching, who's all watching, if you can hear me. I hope that y'all can hear me. I sometimes have some technical difficulties, so let me know if you're joining me today. Thank you for being here. And so anyway, so I'll keep going. So the truth is that we just don't want to stay stuck in that stress response. This can really wreak havoc in our nervous system and create illness in our body overall. And so you really want to try to start paying more attention to your body. So I just want to take a moment and let's just take a few breaths. Let's just get quickly centered. If you've got if you're seated at your desk, maybe just place your feet on the ground for a moment and close your eyes. And just take a few breaths. Allow that breath to deepen. And notice how just doing this for a few rounds, you might start to relax a little bit here. But as you're breathing here, I want you to pay attention to anything that's clenching. Sometimes like our eyebrow center will be clenched, our jaw, our hands. But the one that we actually pay the least amount of attention to is our butt. Are you clenching your butt? So this little practice of just creating awareness of our body while we're softly breathing here is really, really helpful to help us pull away from stress and come back to relaxation. Maybe allow your belly, your ribs, and your chest to expand on the in-breath and fall on the out-breath. Maybe even you can think of becoming like Jello or like a wet noodle in your body. Right? No pressure anywhere, no clenching, anything. And then go ahead and open your eyes back up. All right. So, how did you feel after doing just that little bit of breathing practice? What did that feel like for you? Because one of the biggest things, and I had a few people ask some questions I want to go ahead and remind myself of. They were all pretty much kind of the same thing. Any ways that you can suggest to help de-stress when your mind is going crazy and you have so many thoughts going on at once in your mind, and you need to quiet your mind. So again, it takes starting to become more aware of your body. What is going on in your body? If we try to breathe, but we're clenched up, we're going to stay stuck in that fight or flight mode. It's not really going to help us. It's not going to be super beneficial to get that full relaxation mode in that nervous system if we're clenching up. So the first thing that I would suggest, if we're stuck up here and we've got so many thoughts going on in our head and our mind is spinning, our heart is racing, our hands are getting clammy, start to pay attention to those things. How does stress show up in your body? Because it's kind of different for everybody, but for the most part, those signals are the same. So notice what happens in your body. Usually your heart starts speeding up. Again, your hands might get clammy or sweaty. You might start to feel some stuff in your gut, like, that worry or stress in your gut. How does stress show up in your body? Are you clenching? Sometimes, we've got the eyebrow clenching. We're clenching our jaw. We're tightening our hands, our thighs. And the biggest one that we don't pay attention to, the butthole. I mean, it's not something we want to talk about. But it's the truth. Like, oftentimes we might be relaxed everywhere else, and then we're not noticing that we're clenching our butt. And that's definitely one of the first ones that grips when we're living in fear, when we're in stress, when we're in that mindset. So again, pay attention to what's going on in your body. Drop into your body. Oftentimes, again, we're so stuck up here that we're allowing our thoughts to control our responses, and then our body is tensing up and tightening up and in fight or flight mode, and the two are disconnected. So the more that you can get your mind to connect with your body, like labeling, oh, my forehead is clenching, my jaw is clenching, my hands are tightening, my butt is clenching, my thighs are clenching. Can you allow yourself to become kind of like a wet noodle or Jello, where you can still hold yourself upright, but you're just not clenching any muscle in your body? Like, test that out for a second and notice if that works for you. If you can just relax in your body, no one has to know that you're doing it. You can even maybe take a few deep breaths here while you're doing it, but just start to become more aware of your body's response to stress. And if you're joining me this morning or this afternoon, say hi, let me know that you're here. Thanks for joining. And so another thing to talk about is our thoughts, right? So oftentimes we tend to identify ourselves with our thoughts as our reality and as our truth. But the truth is that not everything we say is absolutely true. So I ask you to challenge your thoughts and start to really talk back to yourself. Like, there's one yogi that tells us that's not true. Like, you can just kind of like start, calling your brain a liar, because it is, especially if you're saying mean and negative things to yourself and that aren't helpful, because we can't hate ourselves to be productive. That's not necessarily something that works for everybody. Maybe it does for you, but if it doesn't, can you start to challenge that practice by being more kind and gentle with yourself and countering those negative thoughts that are causing that stress? So again, you don't have to identify with your thoughts. Not everything that you say is true. And so really start to pay attention to that. So not only, one, are we becoming more aware of our body's response to stress, right? How much are we tightening? How much are we clenching? How deeply are we breathing? Are we staying stuck up here in our chest when we're breathing? Or can we open that up so that we're breathing a little bit more diaphragmatically and slower and deeper, so that we can really come into that full relaxation response? What are we saying to ourselves that's causing the stress in the first place, right? Like what kind, thank you, Kathy. I know, we really can't. We can't hate ourselves to be productive. We can't hate ourselves to look better. We can't hate ourselves to really do anything. So thank you for chiming in on that. But what are we saying to ourselves? Is it negative, and is it helpful? Is it kind, and is it true? So asking yourself those questions as you're really starting to notice your body's response to how you're feeling. And is it necessary for you to be talking to yourself that way, in such a hateful way? Oftentimes you might find that you're not, and maybe that's just a response that you're used to. That's definitely has been my go-to for a really long time, and it's taken me some dedication and practice to start to change that dialogue in my head so that my body can start to respond as well. Again, they work together, and the more that you can start to sync those twos up, the mind with the body, the more you'll start to understand yourself better, and you can pull yourself out of that stress response. Another way that you can combat, again, circling back to the questions that you all asked me about when you're in that frantic mode of stress, how can you bring yourself back to a calm state? Another thing, again, is to get yourself out of your head. Drop into your body, but also drop into your surroundings. Really start to pay attention to everything that you see. There's this practice called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you start to pay attention to 5 things that you can actually see with your eyes. Start to notice any shapes, any colors of the surroundings that are around you. Come back to your senses. Start to pay attention to the things that you feel. Maybe 4 things that you can feel, like the clothing that's wrapping around your body, like your hands touching some sort of surface or your body, your feet touching the ground, your sits bones touching whatever it's seated on. Start to pay attention to the things that you're feeling or in your surroundings. Start to notice what you hear, what sounds are present in this moment. Again, anything that you can do to pull yourself out of your mind in that frantic state of stress and come back to your surroundings. So what can you hear? 3 things that you can hear. Another thing is, what can you smell? What things are currently present? Perhaps you smell, if you're outdoors, you smell nature. Perhaps you smell someone's cooking. Perhaps you smell your own lunch. It's noon right now, so maybe you're eating while you're watching this. Maybe your taste buds still taste like your toothpaste or whatever you last ate or whatever you last drank. So coming back to your senses is also, a really helpful way to bring us back to the present moment, to pull us away from our mind. Because again, I think that we just tend to absorb and tend to stay stuck up here so much that we forget about everything else. Like all the simple little things that our body has to offer, that our surroundings have to offer, that oftentimes we're just not paying attention to because we're so focused on what's going on up here. So again, some just going back to remind yourself of what we've been talking about. One of the most important things that you can do to combat stress is to become very aware. Oh, nice, Kathy. Yeah, it's definitely one practice that served me well, especially when I'm outside. Even if you're not stressed, I find it a beautiful practice to come back to the present moment of just coming back to your senses. I find it to be really, really helpful and brings me back to the present moment. And again, you're becoming more aware of the present moment. Y'all, this is the only moment that we have any sort of control over. If we're stressed, if we're worried, we're constantly fearing tomorrow. Tomorrow's tomorrow, right? We only have control over this one moment. So I urge you to step back and come back to this present moment. Anytime you catch yourself fearing of what's going on tomorrow, what can you do now to take you away from that stress? So again, becoming aware. How does stress show up in your body? Really physically, how does it show up? Again, we've named those previously. So if you haven't checked out the rest of the video and you're watching the replay, come back to that. Come back to the body, those areas that are clenching. Unclench that butt. That's probably the biggest one that we tend to forget about. The hands, the forehead, the jaw, the shoulders. I forgot to mention the shoulders. Are they up here? Right? Can you soften those and relax them, pull them down and away from the ears? So how does your body respond to stress? Awareness is key, y'all. Awareness is key. Come back to the body. And then notice, what are the thoughts that you're saying to yourself that are causing that stress response, right? And I know I'm getting repetitive, but it's for a good reason, especially if these tools are foreign to you and it's not new, or it's new, that I want to get repetitive so that you really get it in your head. So again, what thoughts are you saying? Are they kind? Are they true? Are they necessary, right? And if they're mean, can you change that dialogue in your head? Even if it's something that you might not believe. Remember, you've been thinking this way for however old you are today. It's going to take some repetition of changing the dialogue in your head so that your body can start responding to that, right? And start believing what you're actually saying. Because especially if you're believing those negative things in your head, then eventually you can start to believe the positive things that you say to yourself as well. Become your own best friend. When I coach my clients, that's one of the biggest things that I hope to do for them, is to teach them how to become their own guide, their own ally, right? Right now, I don't know if you're anything like I've been in the past, but I've been my own worst critic, y'all. The things that have gone on in my head have not been kind, have not been nice, and we're the ones that we spend the most amount of time with. So if you're spending an enormous amount of time with yourself, then can you be kinder and gentler to yourself? How do you talk to your friends? Do you talk to your friends the way that you talk to yourself? Right? So become aware of your thoughts, become aware of your body, become aware of your surroundings, right? Become aware of your senses. All of this stuff is really, really helpful to combat stress, to come back to the present moment, to release that fear, that worry, that doubt about tomorrow. Because again, remember, today is all we have. So enjoy this moment, and can you shift that mindset and that stress response to come back to your normal stress response of rest and restore. So what do you think? I know this one was a little long and a little repetitive, but I really want you to nail this down. So tell me your thoughts. How does this practice work for you? We did a little bit of breathing, a little closer to like the 5-minute mark. So maybe check in with that and see if that's helpful for you. Try these out the next time you start feeling stress, and try not to get it to the point where you're about to get a panic attack. Trust me, I've been there, and it's a little harder to scale back from panic attacks because our nervous system's already like completely shot into that fight or flight mode. And then once you come back and come out of it, you're going to feel exhausted, right? So try not to get to that point. Become more aware of your body, become more aware of your thoughts, become more aware of your surroundings and your senses. And I promise you that the more you practice this, the less you will be stressed, the less you will be anxious, the less you will be in fear, okay? So reach out to me, let me know what you think. I also help women with this. It's my calling. I like I said, I want to teach my clients and my students to become their own best friends. So if this is of interest to you, message me, and yeah, I would love to work with you if you're interested. So and I'll set up a 20-minute little consultation at no pressure, no charge, just to see if you could use my help. I would love to. So send me a message. Drop me in the comments if you thought this was helpful. I hope you have a wonderful Friday and be completely stress-free, or at least more aware, so that you can start to pull yourself out of that stress. Sending you loads of love today. Have a wonderful weekend. Much love.